Hello, and a warm welcome to everyone, whether you are over on YouTube or watching with us here on Behance. My name is Alex Hogue, and I will be your host today on Adobe Live. And I am joined by the incredibly talented Taylor Johnson, who's going to teach us about video editing. How are you doing, Taylor?
Doing well. Super excited to be here. My name is Taylor, and I'm just going to be going over how to create some intentional montages and reels with you guys today. So thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, happy to have you here, Taylor. Thanks so much for being a part of Adobe Live. And before we get into it, again, whether you're watching from YouTube or Behance, be sure to join in on the conversation in the chat. We welcome your questions, and we do have some excellent moderators that are going to be funneling questions both from YouTube and Behance. And hopefully Taylor and I can answer as many of those as possible. I do see people already populating the chat. I see Oliver, lower third, Cody Bear, Paco. Thanks everyone for being here. If you haven't already, be sure to join and be a part of the Adobe Live community and subscribe to the YouTube channel, as well as on Instagram over at Adobe Live. Well, with that, since we have Taylor here, I would love to chat with Taylor, and I've been lucky enough to know Taylor for quite some time, and I can confidently say that she is one of the most talented editors that I've ever had the pleasure of working with. And today she's going to be teaching us about the art of the montage video edit. She's going to be telling us about how to pull selects, go through music, all sorts of stuff, but I'll kind of let her tell us. Her work has gone everywhere from GoPro, Therabody. It's taken her traveling. She shoots, she edits, she does all the things. So for anyone just tuning in, stick around because it's going to be awesome. So Taylor, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started and what you do.
Great. Thanks for that intro, Alex. It's been a pleasure to work with you these years as well. But my name is Taylor. I'm a filmmaker and a video editor, and I just have a love for telling stories kind of around sports. I kind of have a unique background where I actually went to school for kinesiology, and my senior year, me and my friends had a GoPro, and we started making some fun videos, and I kind of just fell in love with it. So I started teaching myself while I was finishing school, and I ended up being able to work at GoPro. So it was kind of like a story, dream come true right there. So I was able to work at GoPro for a few years. I worked at Therabody, like a tech wellness company, and now I'm doing a lot of just freelance work for different companies. But here is my website. If you want to take a look, it's at taylorcreates.com, and I have just some of my portfolio work from Therabody, GoPro, some branded content that I've made from different brands like Polar Pro and Skydio. So that's a little bit about me and my background and kind of how I've gotten started with video editing. And we can watch a video before we kind of dive in, Alex, or you want to say something else before?
Yeah, no, go ahead. Let's go ahead and check it out. I'm
Awesome.
excited to see what we got here.
Cool. So this is one of the companies that I work with is Skydio, and this is kind of the latest video that I did for them. At the end of the year, they have a highlight video that kind of showcases all the customers and the videos that they shot. So this is the last video that I made for them. So I'll go ahead and play it here for everyone.
So cool. So
And
cool.
also a quick shout out. This is actually Alex
Oh
ripping on his
gosh,
dirt bike. So everybody should know that.
yeah. Oh man, so
Yeah.
fun. You planned that, didn't you? Love
Yeah.
it. Wow. I mean, every time, I mean, for those of you just joining in, I see a couple other people hopping in the chat, Reverb Mike and some others. But for those of you joining in, Taylor, I think, is probably, in my mind, the most qualified person to talk about how to create just a really hypey pump montage video edit with just great content. And she's done it so many times for big companies. And you're also just, I can't wait to hear you talk about music too, because you're always so good at choosing the right music and just how that plays into the edit. So I'm really excited to kind of just jump into it and get started. And again, for anyone in the chat or who's just joining us, Taylor's going to show us some excellent video editing techniques, just all sorts of stuff. And feel free to pop your questions in, and yeah, we'll do our best to answer those and to keep it fun. But with that, Taylor, I'm gonna hand it over to you and let us know what you're gonna do, and go ahead and jump in.
Awesome. So I'm going to kind of go over like a whole process of setting up a project with you guys, um, importing some selects. It's kind of interesting when we worked at GoPro, like we had so many people working on a project. So a lot of times we would like share selects timelines. So I'm going to kind of go over what that looks like if you're working with multiple people, and then also pulling selects from like master files. Like let's say if you're doing like a recap video, kind of like what you saw from the end of the year. And then we'll go into some music. So like my process for kind of mapping out an edit before I even edit. And then at the end, we'll create a little edit together from some cool like XFL football footage. And then I can just kind of dive into some little tips that I like to do when I edit. So just to start off, I have my project. I already created one for Adobe Live, but typically, what I like to do is when I have a project, I always have a project template folder like right here. And so if I come over here to project files in Premiere, I always open this project template.
Already see
And then,
people so excited for your dirt
yeah.
bike content and the XFL. It's awesome.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. So if I come here to, I'm on my desktop, my Adobe Live project, and I always have a Premiere Pro project template, and I think it's super helpful. So I always have the same structure in every single project. So just for future reference, you don't have to always set up your folders and redo your structure and everything. You can just come copy and then paste it into your project, which I've already done here. And so how I love to set up my projects is I've one is sequences. So then under sequences, I'll have my like deliverables. I'll have linked. So like if you use Adobe Dynamic Link with After Effects, that's a good place to put those. I always have nested comps. So I have that here, my selects timelines, and then I'll also have my versions for whichever edits I'm making. And then I'll come down to raws. Pretty self-explanatory. This is where all your raw footage will go. And then music, this is where I like to add in my music tracks that I use. So these are a couple of ones that we'll dive into today. Then I'll have graphics. Sorry, go ahead.
Do you have like specific places that you like to go to find music?
Music, yes. I use Artlist a lot, and then I use Epidemic Sound. Those are kind of like my go-to right now. And then also, if you guys have Adobe, you can go to Adobe Live, not Adobe Live, you can go to Adobe, and they also have a lot of music that you can use for your projects and stuff. So those are some like really good options to kind of start with. But these tracks that we'll be going over today are from Artlist.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, go ahead and continue. We'll dive more into that later.
Sweet. And then the graphics here, like let's say you have any templates, some like textures you use, you know, bumpers when you're working with clients. A lot of times you end your videos with like a specific bumper. That's kind of where I'll put that in graphics. And then audio, I like to use for my sound effects and my VO. I know it's a little bit weird that I keep the music and the audio separate, but I just kind of like to be able to go back into the music by itself. It works for
I was
me. It
gonna
works
ask
for
that
me.
because I see that sometimes with people, and I use a very similar structure when I edit, and
Hmm.
I've always wondered if the music goes separate, but it's cool to
Yeah.
see the way different people do different things. So I love it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I always like to just keep it separate because I feel like that's like the bread and butter of what I'm doing. So I always keep the music by itself. And then I have extras here. So, if I have adjustment layers, use like color mats, things like that, just so they're not all over the place. I always just put it in this extras column.
Very cool. Love it.
Yeah. And then so to start off, I'm actually going to, now that I showed you kind of like my project structure, I'm actually going to dive into music, and then I'll come back to selects because I think it's important a lot of times for many projects to want to get your music first and to like know what you're doing and to really just have a plan going forward. Like assuming you're working with footage that you know and you kind of have a game plan going forward, I think it's great to pick out your music first. And I would say that when you are working with music, it's great to just make sure you're capturing something that really captures the emotions and like the feelings that you're trying to get as well. And also when you're doing longer edits, to make sure you're not doing songs that are like super repetitive, because it really does get old after a while. And editing is not, even montages, it's not just about putting as many cool clips back to back to back as you can. So, which I
Yeah,
know a lot
and
of times we want to do. So
I know one thing with your edits, you kind of use those peaks and the valleys that are in the music waveform to kind of add more impact and punch on certain moments. And I think that's definitely an important piece in choosing your music. Is that something that you're looking for when you're diving into the music?
yes, definitely. I always want something to where, and I'll show in a second here when we map out this one song, but I always want a song that, if you have a peak, it kind of leans itself to changing up the style. You can go from like high action moments to, I'm going to live in like some nice slow-mo shots and live in some like maybe like some beauty nature shots. So I just think when you have that variety in the song, it allows you to have more variety in the shots that you're showing and stuff like that.
Awesome.
Cool. So I found this one song. It's called Smile Right. And I'm going to walk you. So, what I like to do is when I find a song that I do like, before I edit, before I look at footage or anything, I actually like to come in here and listen to the song and take my text tool and I'll write out like, hey, I think this portion of the song sounds like it'd be great for gearing up shots. This is a great moment for a character moment. So I'll actually write it with my text tool so I can just have a visualization beforehand. And it also helps me on the back end of when I pull my selects as well. So, I'll play the song real quick just so you can see it's a shortened version. And then we can kind of dive into how we can chop this up to make it better. So here we go. So as you
Awesome.
see, yeah, that song has it's a nice build up. It's got great place to put some action moments and also good places to kind of like break down and do some extra things there.
Yeah, I can
So
already hear it right away. And could you just tell we got Muhammad in the chat is
mhm.
asking what is the name of the song title? And could you just
um,
recap on where you got that from?
yeah, so this specific song I got from Artlist, and I believe the name of the song is Smile Right, and it's by Captain Jaws, J-O-Z, Joe's Jaws, one of those two.
Sweet. Awesome. Cool. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm going to pretend like, let's say I showed you guys a Skydio video at the beginning. So let's pretend like we're going to make a new Skydio video to show off, for end of 2023. So this beginning portion where it's very soft, I'm going to take my text tool and be like, I think this is just a great beginning section to show off a few beauty shots, like of people around the world with their drones.
And is
And
this just
then,
to like establish the scene kind of setup?
yeah, so I say
So you
kind of
listen to the
establish a
track and
scene.
kind of feel out like what might go where. So that's kind of what we're breaking
Yeah,
down right now.
exactly.
Excellent.
Yeah. So I love to just map everything. I'm a visual person, so just having a game plan going into looking for shots and everything just is very, very helpful. And then so this first section, let's say I want to have just beautiful shots of people just flying their drone in places. And then this next section, let's say I want to touch on a few of like the key features. So people showing off like the features of the drone. So I'll write that here. Ooh, this thing's getting in my way.
And Taylor, just because you're so good with music and doing these, out of curiosity, do you play any instruments yourself? Or you just
I do not.
naturally
I've
have good ears?
never been musically gifted. I don't think. I
Yeah.
tried to play the piano, which I enjoyed, but the career was short. And then I tried guitar when I was younger, and that was very, very short career. So,
Well,
um,
I'm sure you can still play piano better than I ever could. So,
yeah. So, but yeah, so this first section, I kind of just wanted to establish, like we said, like some very beautiful shots and then go into like some features of the drone. And just so if anybody's not aware of Skydio, they have like cool features like keyframing and kind of make your drone look like a race drone. So this would be like a great thing to add here. And then so as I go into this new section, I'll just listen to it real quick. Yeah, so as the beat drops, I feel like this is a great area to, let's say, establish some characters. Yeah, we'll establish some characters right here and maybe even add some like gear up shots. So people like, let's say if you have a mountain biker, getting ready to go mountain bike, taking their drone out or just something. And that this is a great place to put that as where music's kind of like ramping up. And then here, yeah, right before the beat drops, in my mind, I see it as we have a character who's about to drop and he just a very good character moment, some VO, something that really just going to get us hooked into the edit. So I'll just write that out here.
awesome. So just to recap, we're kind of laying the music down and we're breaking down each section musically to what you're envisioning that the visuals might be for that section. So we're kind of establishing the scene at the beginning. And then now you're at the point where it's like, okay, we're about to really get into the music and you're going to kind of set it up. And then boom, we're into it. We're into the harder hitting visuals. Is that right?
Definitely. Yes. Yeah. So as the beat drops right there, so then we'll switch it over to, like you said, those action moments to really get the crowd hyped. And then there's like two sections basically in this one portion. So you have this one version, and then right when that beat drops, it's kind of like another section. So, and there's like a little added beats to it. So what I would do here is I would continue with the action moments, but maybe I'm going to pick up the pace of my cuts. I'm going to have, you know, faster cuts, like a little bit faster edits, maybe try and spice it up with like some match cuts, or just really trying to establish it and make it even more high energy from the section before.
Very cool. And I got to ask, there is a little bit of conversation in the chat going on about using this tool of actually using the text that you're typing out right now versus using markers on the timeline or on the clip. It looks like you prefer to use text and kind of break down those scenarios. Do you ever use markers, or what is your preference?
When it comes to this, because I'm kind of just like mapping it out, but I'm basically like brainstorming right now, I kind of just prefer to write it out and just go over it this way, because it just helps me, my brain visually, to do it like this. And then usually when I go over to the edit, I like remember the sections, I kind of know what I'm looking for. So then it just kind of flows for me that way.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think
I
markers
totally
is
agree.
definitely, yeah.
I think it's also, in my personal video editing opinion, like it's easier to move them around if you need to as well than markers.
Yeah, exactly. It's good. And then I will say I do use markers like on like a final timeline, just to like separate different things, which I'll show later. But I think there's a time and place for each one of these tools and stuff.
Absolutely agree. Yeah. And even in the chat, we're seeing, you know, it's just a great way for other people, including, you know, myself and all of us watching, just to visualize it. It's a little bit easier if you're showing someone your edit and, you know, maybe you're in the rough stages of an edit. So,
yeah, definitely. Yeah. And like, kind of speaking to your point, Alex, we used to do this, you know, when we were doing things at GoPro, you know, we'd want to like kind of showcase, okay, what are we thinking? You know, we had so much footage to go through that, especially when you're working among different people, it's very nice to just have this layout that you can share with everybody. So everybody's kind of on the same page of what's going to be made.
Agreed. Yeah. Great little pro tip there. Love using the text for something
Definitely.
like this.
Great. And then just to finish off real quick on this. So I think that little moment where it dips again, I'm just gonna copy this, and I think we can add like another character moment right here.
And how did you just copy that so quickly?
Okay, yes. So if you hold down, if you're on Mac, if you hold down Option key and you just like raise it, then it'll duplicate it for you. So it just makes it a lot easier.
So you don't have to make a whole new one. Love it. Real quick.
Yeah. Quicker than copy and paste as well. And then, so when I come to this next section, again, you want to have variety in the edit. You don't want to just showcase the same thing. So as the music breaks down again here, going back to our Skydio drone, I think this would be a great place to show some keyframe and gimbal, which is a feature, like one of the key features of their consumer drone. So right here is I would show some keyframe and gimbal moments, and then I would just let those moments breathe, because we just came out of this higher fast action pace. And so you just kind of live in these shots for a little bit and really show people what the drone can do, essentially. And then for this final section, Alex, I'm sure you've seen these, but there's some people who do some pretty cool and unique things with these drones. So I would say I would kind of save this last section to really just show off some of the most unique moments from the drone. So just unique moments.
So when you...
So yeah, so I would do unique moments, and then I would end off like the final bit. And when you're doing this, you can definitely go in and like line up the text to the exact beat. I'm not doing that right now just for the sake of time, but that's definitely something you will want to do. And then just to...
Oh,
Yeah, go
sorry, go
ahead.
ahead. No, go ahead.
And then just to cap it off, I was going to do celebration. Oh, struggling on the keyboard today. Celebration moments.
So are these like birthday parties or what are these
No,
shots?
basically celebrations are like people once they finish, like they just have an amazing run. They just finished, doing a line with their friends or anything, just having them, fist bump at the end,
Cool.
celebrate, just really just screaming at the camera. There's a lot of great moments, people doing stuff like that. So that's definitely
Awesome. And
something
we're
we can
gonna
do.
get to see some of do you have some footage we're working with here as well?
On this timeline, this is just to show kind of a longer edit of what we're going to do, but I actually am going to show, I'm going to come in here and import.
And another question coming over from the chat,
Mhm.
lower third or L third, I'm gonna say lower third, wants to know, how do you deal with different like types of shots and I guess just putting them in, but also coloring them? Are you using LUTs or anything? How do you work with basically drone footage or red footage and that sort of stuff and combining the two? Do you have any tips there?
Combining the two, well, I know you mentioned color. Is it more on like the back end post processing side, or is it for like just in general during the edit process?
I think, well, I don't know. I'll let L third clarify, but
Okay.
my guess is kind of just a general level. Do you have any tips on dealing with different types of footage? Do you do that a lot? That sort of stuff.
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing when it comes to different footage is when you're editing, having the footage flow together as best as possible, whether it's from like movements or something, I think is something that I always kind of focus on. And then when you have like different, like we'll see when I edit this XFL footage, we're going to have, stuff shot from 3 different cameras. We're going to have a Blackmagic camera, a Nikon, and also a GoPro. So there's definitely differences there. And a lot of the differences that you see, it's kind of something you have to work out when you're coloring just to match the footage as best it can be and to make it look as good as possible, I would say.
Excellent. Sweet.
Awesome. So that was kind of a full breakdown of one track that I did. And then here is a video that I did for Therabody, and I'll play it real quick. It's a quick 30-second cut, but it's an example of just a video, and then I'll show how I broke it down like before I edited it for
And
everybody.
Taylor, real quick before you press play, would you mind just lowering the level of the audio on the video just a little bit?
Definitely.
There we go.
Cool. Great. So I'll play this video real quick, and then I'll touch base on how I figured out the music for this. Cool. So this was a video to showcase like the different athletes at Therabody and kind of just do like a little mashup between them. So when I chose the music, I wanted something that was obviously pretty heavy hitting, something that could really showcase the action and have a lot of cuts between like the different activities. But for this beginning section, I wanted something, and the reason we have Ronaldo so much is because he was like one of the big, I mean, obviously he's one of the biggest athletes, but he was also like one of the new signed athletes for Therabody at the time. So we wanted to make him very prominent. But so at the beginning, we kind of want to show off. I wrote it down to where I wanted to show the product being used, athletes kind of gearing up, getting ready with their Theragun. And then this middle section, I wanted it to be just action, a lot of cuts, showcasing all the different activities, everybody just rocking it at their respective sports. And then here, when we go back into this dip portion, I wanted it to go back into the Theragun, like they're recovering, they're taking the time to get back into shape. And then this last portion, I wanted it to just be like they did their Theragun, now they're ready to go for round two. Like I wanted to just kind of show kind of some them just being, I don't want to say it, like bad ace, like just ready to go for their like next bout or something. So yeah, so that's kind of how I structured it. And obviously this was also a product video. So having the product be prominent was definitely something that we wanted. But that was kind of an example of how I broke down this edit. So yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I love the just the type and quality of content that you get to work with. I think
Yeah.
very blessed for sure.
Yeah.
Some really cool stuff in there. How long
Right.
does something like that take you to edit if we're doing kind of this montage style where it's maybe not 100% like documentary and it's more about pumping out the energy? Like how long would you say and how much footage are you going through to create this type of edit?
Yeah, and it really depends. Well, it really depends on how much footage and like the process you're using. So, for example, like this particular video, what I did was I used masters. So I'll go over like what that means and how to pull selects and use masters. But I basically used final videos from each of these Therabody athletes, and I pulled selects that way to kind of make this edit. So when you're using masters, to me, it's much quicker process than, let's say I'm using selects from a project that I shot, because you have like the best of the best clips already there for you kind of to work with, so it makes the edit definitely quicker. So I would say like this particular edit probably took me like a day to do from like start to finish. It really wasn't too long. It's only 30 seconds, but I definitely have other edits like the Skydio video where you're going through just every customer's content folder. You're trying to find the best of the best clips and making sure everybody and everything is represented properly. It definitely takes much longer. You're definitely looking at more like editing for a week just to get a nice polished cut.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, this is great. All really good stuff. And I think maybe you just, as you get more experience, you probably get a lot quicker at it because I don't know, you do it pretty
Definitely.
quick. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
No, definitely.
take us
Yeah.
through your process here.
Great. So now I'm going to just close these two out, and I'm going to just take this away as well. So now that we have like for example, we have what we're looking for, let's import in some selects timelines. And so there's really two ways you can do it. So for example, like I just mentioned, let's say you're working off of master files. So I'm going to come and I have here in my project folder, I have raws, and I just have this folder of like 4 Therabody clips. So I'm just going to go ahead and drag in this Therabody folder. And then so here, now what I can do is I'm going to right click and I'm going to go new sequence from clip. And then so now this project basically just became a timeline for me. And like, so now that I have this edit, I've kind of mapped out, hey, I need some establishing character shots. I need some gear up shots. Now I can make sure that when I'm actually doing my edit, that I'm able to go in here and find selects, specifically for what I'm looking for. So for example, a gear up shot, him getting in the car.
And were you shooting this content as well, or did somebody just kind of hand you all this and say, all right,
Yeah.
make a cool edit?
Yeah. So this
Like, did you
was
know all the content that was here?
Yeah, so this ironically, this is a video that like I made. So all the time you're not always going to be working with videos that you made. So this is actually a video I made. So I kind of am familiar with a lot of this content. But yeah, I did not shoot this. This is just a project that I made. So it could be, you are working with um footage and videos and masters that you've made. Like let's say at the end of the year you want to make like a cool demo reel or just a recap video of all your projects you've done. You're working with your own stuff, and then a lot of times when it's client work, obviously you're doing footage that you don't know, so it's a good mix. And then so as I'm pulling masters, now I have my timeline, I can command K which will give me a cut. Like, let's say I'm looking for gear up shots. These guys are definitely gearing up, getting the car ready. And then I'm just going to raise that up. So I know that's a great shot that I can use for that moment. And let's say I need just some great action moments. So I'll hear Command K, scroll, get all those shots together.
Do you ever like say open that clip in the source window and set an in and out marker and then bring it down? Or do you prefer to put everything on the timeline and kind of do it this way and go through everything?
I definitely prefer to have everything on the timeline, especially when I'm working. I did this at the beginning. The first time I ever made a bigger montage from masters, I kind of would do this, put it on the timeline, and then I would come here and like ripple delete everything that I initially didn't raise. And I think that's a mistake, because especially when you're working with masters, it's like everything that's in that video is great content. Otherwise, it wouldn't be in the video in the first place. So I think it's always good to kind of just keep the full edit here with your highlighted clips that maybe you like the most, so that you can always go back to it and reference it. And I know I always a lot of times go back to it and reference it. So I would definitely recommend that if you're pulling from masters, to kind of do it the way I said, where you right click, new sequence from clip, and then you just keep everything on the timeline so you can still see it.
Very
I think
cool.
that's super
And
helpful.
one other question coming in from the chat,
Mhm.
Nick wants to know, do you ever use the scene cut detection feature inside of Premiere? Are you familiar with that?
I actually do not use the scene cut detection. I think the biggest reason why I don't is because a lot of times multiple clips kind of like work together back to back that are in the edit. So I like to keep a lot of things together, and then I try and find, different moments. Like, let's say this car right here is coming to the right, then I'll find a moment that matches kind of like that energy, that speed, to transfer into like a next edit moment or shot like that.
Okay. And then for those of you in the chat or just watching, Taylor is a powerhouse video editor, and she's teaching us about the art of montage editing. So we are kind of pulling clips from what we call master clips right now from videos that are previously done to kind of make maybe a end of year montage that's really exciting or something like that. And then Taylor, just going off that scene cut detection, I know you don't
Mhm.
use it. Could you just maybe show people real quick what that feature is or how to access it if you right click on the clip and then just go to that scene cut detection? For any of those who are wondering, is kind of the easiest way to do it. And what that'll do is it'll analyze the clip and just
Mhm.
you can tell it whether you want cuts there or not. Or sorry, not if you, it'll find the cuts, but
Yeah.
it'll put them on the timeline there for you.
Definitely. Yeah, so it just makes it it's definitely, if that's something you want, it makes it much easier for you to just have those moments kind of broken out for you. And again, to find that, like Alex said, you right click on the clip and you do the scene edit detection, and then you can analyze it that way.
Awesome. Well, there you go, Nick. Thanks for asking.
Cool. Yes, Nick, thanks for the question. And so when it comes to masters, I'll kind of do this. And one thing that I do love to do while I'm editing is I love to find, I think it's important when you edit montages, especially, to have continuity, to have shots that flow. So I'll always just pay attention to the movement of different shots, the framing of shots. And when I come to different edits, I will try and see if I can find a shot that I can easily cut to, match with, or would be a good continuation, like I said, like from this shot. So I think those are all great things that you can think about as you're going through all your clips. And then sometimes if you do find something that you're like, oh, I think these two shots may work together, I like to just set them aside on my timeline as well, because it helps you, to see and like map out if it will actually work together or not.
Excellent.
And then back to, so this is the method of basically like pulling from masters. And so if you, like, let's say you're collaborating with someone or you have another teammate and you guys have divvied up who's pulling selects for a certain project, another way you can do it is you can I'm going to open up a recent project, or you can open up any project that's kind of been on your hard drive. Once this opens here.
And for everyone watching, I would like to point out that if there is somebody you would like to nominate, or yourself, to do one of these Adobe live streams, if you would like to be a guest, be sure to submit your recommendations for creatives in the tab on Behance. So if you, friend, anyone, if you got some tips, pro tips, you want to join and become part of the community, go ahead and look into that and recommend us.
Awesome. All right, so I opened up my other project here, and I have this timeline that says UA on the field, which is kind of like some XFL shots that we'll be using on the field. And so if someone else, let's say, has pulled selects, or you want to bring in someone else's selects timeline, it's super nice. You can just grab this, copy it. I can go back to my Adobe Live project, and then I just will paste it in there. And then now you see this timeline is now in my Adobe project, and the raws will also have transferred over.
I'm so glad you showed that, because it's honestly one of my favorite features of Adobe Premiere, as well as even you can do the same thing with all the Adobe programs, bringing it from After Effects into Premiere. And this is just a game changer. So being able to open multiple projects, have them open at the same time, and copy and paste that content over, just absolute game changer. It's so helpful. I'm really glad that you also utilize that and you showed it. So I think people definitely love that.
Yeah, it's super helpful. It just makes everybody's lives much easier, and it makes for collaborating on projects definitely much easier as well. Cool. Getting a little bit of the spin wheel of death here. So
well, that's part of the video editing world.
Exactly.
So, we'll kind of roll with it. It looks like you have a lot of footage on the timeline there too.
Definitely.
Okay. I like how you've kind of broken down your footage. I'm already looking at the markers and such here on the timeline. Very, very cool use of organization. And I love how organized you are too. That just, I'm sure that helps with the process of getting those edits busted out in a day.
So. Definitely. No, yeah, it definitely, the more work you do on the front end, the more easier your life is going to be on the back end. And it comes that kind of comes from all facets of life. Like the more you prepare and the more detailed you are up front, it just helps you so much. So,
is this that XFL content we're talking about?
Yeah, so this is what we're going to be diving into here shortly. But awesome. So just to go back to that selects, so like I showed, I just dragged over, copy and pasted, and I have my whole selects timeline here. And then and all that footage came over with it as well. And here's another option you can do. This is the original XFL project. Let's say this is your friend's project or on a different computer. What you can do instead, like let's say I already have all the footage, like we already have the footage in my project. So I just basically need the timeline. What you can do is if you have the sequence selected, you come over here to File, Export, and then Selection as a Premiere project. And then so what I'll do is I'll just keep this name how it is. I'm going to stick it on my desktop, and I'll click Save. So basically what that did was it saved this specific timeline, and then I'll come back over to my Adobe project, and then I'll say that I want to import. I'll come over to my desktop, and then here was that sequence. And then you can go ahead, you can import entire project, you can import selected sequences, and then it'll basically bring over that timeline for you as well that way. So it's like there's two ways you can do it. And when you do it this way, the second way that I showed, ideally you already have the footage in your project. So you're basically not dragging over new footage. It just really just giving you the timeline because you already have the footage in your project.
Very cool. Love it.
Cool.
So we got about a solid 40 minutes or so left just to keep you in the loop on what's going on.
Great.
And again, for anyone just joining us, I do see some new people in the chat. Hey, Claire, good to see you. Reverb Mike, I know you've been here a while. But yeah, for anyone just popping in, be sure to funnel in your questions for Taylor or for myself. And Taylor is showing us how to make a video montage edit. She's super experienced, done this for big companies like Therabody and GoPro. And yeah, I think we're having a good time here. So let it keep going.
Really? Yes. So, okay, so back to our selects. So now that we have our selects in here, we have our selects pulled. What I like to do is, actually, let me show you guys the music and for the project that we're going to be working on for the montage, and then I'll go back to the selects so you guys can understand how I kind of like divvied it up. So this is a song of the edit that we're going to be building out, and let me just play the edit real quick, or the song real quick, and then I'll go back into it.
Oh, that's spicy. Very good. And again, if we could maybe just turn down the volume on that track or that level a little bit, it's coming through a little hot, but I love the track. I'm instantly sitting here just kind of nodding my head, and I think that's how you know it's a good track and you know it's going to work.
Definitely.
It feels fresh. It doesn't feel repetitive like a lot of quick short edits might. So I love what you did here with cutting this up and taking the best moments of it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and again, to kind of reiterate that, it's best to have songs where you can like have different beats, different moments, and just really doesn't feel like Alex said, just it's the same beat over and over and over again. It's really going to help that edit process. So for this one, this is going to be a social media edit kind of for the XFL. And basically they want something that's going to showcase practices like on the field. And so this moment in the beginning is really just how I see it playing out is to have a couple establishing shots, but not too many, just because again, it is social media and you want to kind of get into it pretty quickly. And then have some character moments, get people hyped, get some players talking, just really amped up and like ready to go. And then dive in this first drop section to some drills, playing some drills, just getting the action going. And then this whole second portion of the edit is just really just, some fast cuts, some moments of the players just really running through plays and doing their thing.
And sorry to interrupt you. I know we got this track here and it looks like you're maybe at about 40 seconds or so for the track roughly. So I'm assuming you're cutting that down to get it to a certain time, maybe for something, whatever your deliverable needs to be, or maybe you're just cutting out sections of the track that you feel extend a little long. And we're getting some questions. Have you ever used the remix tool inside of Adobe Premiere? Or are you familiar with that? I know I actually just learned about it a couple months ago, and I think it's super cool. But yeah, I'm curious if you've ever done that before.
I have never used it inside of Adobe Premiere. I know they used to have it in Audition, and so every once in a while I would go in there and do the remix feature. So I'm assuming it's pretty much a similar feature that you can do in a Premiere and not having to go into Audition, but I actually have never really used it.
Yeah,
at times no worries. I feel like,
yeah, it's basically, for anyone asking, it's a cool feature inside of Premiere. You can access it if you go to Window and then go to Essential Sound. You'll see a remix feature there. You can also, there's actually a tool for it. It's probably that third tool down if you push and hold on it, like to your left there. I think it's the third tool down. If you click and hold there, you'll see an option for the remix tool to come up. And what that does is it allows you to take maybe a 2-minute long track, and you can bring it down, tell it, hey, I want it to be 30 seconds, and it'll automatically remix it, which most of the time it works pretty well. Sometimes if it's a complicated track, it has a little bit of a hard time, but definitely give it a try because it's really cool, and really you can also stretch stuff with it too. So if you need a section of a song to be longer, it's really cool. Definitely go in there and play with it though.
Cool. Thanks for the breakdown on that one, Alex. So for this edit, now that we have this kind of like full timeline and you've heard the song, so now I'm going to go back to my selects and kind of just go into how I broke it down. So I love to work off of one specific timeline just so I'm not going like back and forth. I know another option is some people, when they have like their compiled selects, they like to have separate sequences that kind of show, these are my like warm up detail shots, these are my drills and plays. But for the sake of just being more efficient and more effective, I like to kind of have everything on one timeline. And in this specific case, I used markers. And the reason I have these sections out is because there's actually 3 different teams. We have one team, the Houston Defenders, sorry, not the DC Defenders, and then we have the Houston Roughnecks, and then we have the St. Louis Battlehawks. So in this timeline, we have 3 different teams, and we're going to kind of make a mashup with all 3 of them. And so that's why I have like a little bit of a space here, just so I know which team is which, and it just helps me stay a little bit more organized. So knowing that I'm going to have some like warm-up shots in the beginning, I've kind of laid out all my different warm-up shots that I have here, all my favorite ones, and then I just kind of put my specific marker and selection in the timeline, and then moving on to like drills and plays, just scrolling through all the different drills and plays and the things that the players are doing. And then I have that kind of broken down for that middle section of the edit. And then also here, I've kind of found some specific character moments, you know, of the guys just cheering. And so I've kind of separated those as well. So again, it just helps me find shots much quicker because it's just more detailed up front, and then allows me to just make an edit a little bit faster.
Okay, cool. So walk us through what's next. We got maybe about a half hour or so left here. What are you going to show us?
Cool. So now that I have this track here, I'm just going to like make an edit with you guys, so you guys can see things that I look for and things that I put together, and then also a few tips like match cutting, timer mapping to kind of add just more emphasis to a couple of clips. So, and then also, I don't know if everybody's like this, but I typically don't start at the beginning of the edit. I kind of like to start in the middle of the action moments. I like to kind of build up and get the adrenaline flowing right away.
So you start in the, this is really interesting actually.
Yeah.
Because I know other people, even in my early days at GoPro, I had someone once teach me, you know, start with your ending shots and work your way backwards. So you like to start in the middle. I know some people love to start at the beginning. I'm curious what people that are watching, what's your take? Where do you like to start on the track? Do you start in the middle of the edit, at the beginning, start with your end shots? Curious to know. So yeah, go ahead and go into it. I'm curious to know why you start in the middle.
Yeah. So the biggest thing is like, I feel like when I hear those big moments in the song, I kind of already have like an idea of what shots I want to go. So I'm just like, I'm just going to send it and put those moments in there first and just build it out that way. So then I wanted to start off with like some drills and stuff. So there's a lot of footage to work with. So I'll try and be as efficient and effective as possible as we're kind of going through everything. But I remember from one of these practices, and I'm going to be moving like pretty fast, obviously for the sake of time, but I know the footage obviously pretty well. So it's going to help me. But a lot of times you're going to have to, you know, really dive deep and analyze all the footage and everything, and just so you know what you have. So I know that I want to, when the beat drops, I definitely want to have like a quarterback moment of a quarterback starting a play. So I'm just going to kind of scroll here.
Love the GoPro office helmet.
Yes. Yes, this was a fun, very fun one. Getting some very, very unique angles of this one.
Very
There's
cool.
that.
And
Yeah.
just a reminder for anyone just joining us, Taylor is taking us through her process for a montage video edit. And we're going through kind of the selects process and now actually dropping clips in. We got a track picked out. She kind of talked about all that. If you missed any of it, all of this it is being recorded and will be recast as a replay, both on YouTube and on Behance. So be sure to check that out if you're just joining us. Yeah.
Sweet. So I'm just going to start. A lot of times what I'll do too is I'll drop clips that just kind of feel like they work together, and then I'll come back and match it up with the music. So I don't try to make everything like super specific and perfect right away. But I kind of have this QB shot that I know I want to use. And then I definitely want I'm gonna need a receiver kind of running around. Just gonna kind of scroll.
And Taylor, remind me while we're looking through this. I know you probably touched on it a little bit in the intro, but how did you get into all of this? Like, what started you in video?
Yeah, so funny story. My senior year of college, my friend had a GoPro, like Hero 3, and so basically after like swim practice, I swam in college. Basically after swim practice, we would go out and do random things like go to Sunset Cliffs in San Diego and film some cliff jumping, or just film some like hiking and stuff. And we did like a trip to Hawaii. And so I just kind of loved it and taught myself on the side. So that's kind of,
Self-taught. I love it.
yeah. So that was kind of the main shit.
And do you yourself play sports or partake in any of the action sports and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, so I used to be a swimmer. I don't swim anymore. That ship has sailed, but I'm fine with it. So yeah, I used to swim, but now I just love. I love being outdoors, like camping, hiking. I love skiing and doing all that type of stuff. So anything that's kind of outdoors is really where I love to be and love to do. Cool. And so just to go back to the edit, I'm just building off. Like I said, I kind of want to start in this middle section because I kind of have a game plan in my head that I want to run a play with a wide receiver, for example. So I'm going to find this beat in the song. So I'm going to go to this beat and try to find this guy. So we have this guy running fast, pretty high energy shot. And then I know I'm going to want to cut to the QB kind of getting into his action. So let's see how that feels. And then a lot of editing is just really finessing with clips and watching it back hundreds of times and really kind of feeling like what works together.
Do you have any favorite kind of like, I guess, hotkeys that you like to use, that you like to share? Any little tips, insider things that you like to do?
Yeah, I think I feel like the biggest ones are just really I love being able to like kind of like match cut if I can. Anytime that I can just find clips that just work seamlessly together and to make them come together, that's kind of like the biggest things that I love to do. Making the edit be as seamless and kind of flowing the best it can, I think is kind of where I love to shine and try and set myself apart for sure.
Well, you definitely set yourself apart. I'm assuming when you're saying match cut, you're kind of looking for those cuts that just fit to the eye visually really well. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. And also, I'll try and see if I can put one in here too. But like, let's say if I have some person running and then I can cut to another person running, but it just feels like it's just pretty seamless. That's kind of a lot of what I like to do for the match cuts as well.
Love that. Yeah. That makes good sense, especially if you have someone running and then the next shot, you know, it's maybe someone else, but they're also running in the same direction, but it's a slightly different angle, or, you know, little things like that. I love that that's kind of what you watch for.
Definitely. Yeah. Okay, so I'm building out this little section right here. So I have just for some continuity, I have the runners starting, and then I have the QB kind of getting into it, throwing, and then now I'm going to come into guy wearing the perfect GoPro angle and catching the ball.
People are eating up this content, by the way. It's great.
Yeah, nice, awesome. And then, for example, an action like this, I think it's really good because if I'm just going to play it back one more time, just so you can see it if it's in full speed. I feel like it works and it looks good, but I think what could make this even better is if I come over here and on this effects key, right click it, click timer mapping, and then come, and as soon as he's about to catch the ball, these GoPro clips are shot in 60 frames on it, and I'm on a 24 timeline, so it allows me to slow it down to 40%. So I think it would just give some extra emphasis, drop this down to 40.
And can you walk us through, so what exactly is time remapping? And then, yeah, so you're clicking on that little yellow FX button there, and then using the pen tool, or you're just dragging. Okay.
Yeah, so using the pen tool, just clicking a point on the timeline. So, okay, so just to go back over, like Alex said, time remapping allows you to like slow down a clip or like speed up a clip, for example. And so to do that, this yellow effects tab, you're gonna right click it and then do timer mapping and then make sure there's a dot next to speed. And so that's gonna kind of change it. So as you see, you can see the clip right here, but when I change it to timer mapping, you won't see it because now you'll be able to see kind of the timer mapping area. And then I'll click command as I want to make a point, and then I can just slide it apart. And then I can also click this right here, which allows me to smooth out the transition as well.
And that sliding apart, what is that doing?
So basically, for example, if I show you right here, if I have these two very close together, it's going to change speeds very quickly, versus if I drag this out, it's going to change the length of time it takes for the clip to slow down, basically. So now it's going to take this long for the clip to slow down rather than just slowing down immediately.
Yeah, and you definitely, so we're going from 100% down to about 40%.
40%, yes.
Again, the reason for doing that was just because slowing footage down works best when you do have a higher frame rate footage, and this was shot at least twice as fast as what our timeline is in. So definitely want to shoot higher frame rates if you're going to slow stuff down.
Definitely. So I'm going to come and then just adjust. So it's here. Another thing is try not to linger like too long. Yeah, try not to linger too long. I feel like you have the nice effect, catch the ball. As soon as he catches the ball, I'm going to add my next point. I'm just going to raise that back up so I can get us right back to full speed. So just like this. And then again, in the middle here, when you like rotate, kind of makes that transition much smoother rather than it just be a hard transition from slow to fast. So.
Love it.
That sounds pretty good.
Love it. Cool. All right. Well, we do have about, let's see, maybe about 25 minutes or so left.
Okay.
So go ahead and take us through whatever else you'd like to kind of focus on in these last little bit here. And then meanwhile, for everyone else, go ahead and send your questions over in the chat. And again, if you have any recommendations of people you'd like to have on the stream, join us over on Behance, and you'll see that guest recommendation tab in the upper right corner near the chat. So if you or yourself would like to join in, be sure to do that.
Awesome. And then the next thing is we'll just kind of continue to play off of this. Actually, let me go back. Now that I showed you like a little bit of intro to like the action sequence, now let's just go back to the intro just to make sure I kind of touch on that. So like, again, I said I wanted to have like a couple intro shots. So I'm thinking like a couple players kind of putting on their helmets. And then I want to add just some variety of some people talking and just getting ready to go. So I'm going to dive over here.
And Taylor, I think a lot of people are inspired by your work and your process and kind of just where you're at with your video editing. We have someone in the chat here asking how you actually managed to get your job at GoPro and kind of end up where you are. Did you find work online, or did you approach GoPro, or what was that process like?
Yeah, so at the beginning, I actually like moved to Hawaii, and I was like still in school and kind of like doing my master's program. So I just basically like reached out to companies there, and I was like, "Hey, I would love to work for free or pretty much do anything just to get some experience." Because at the time I obviously had none, and I wasn't qualified at all to get a job. So that's kind of what I did to start off. I definitely think there's value in just offering yourself and finding someone that you would love to like learn from, because there's a lot of value in just learning on the job training, like learning from others and stuff. And so when I was actually in Hawaii, one of my good friends that I still know to this day and talk with, he basically took me under his wing. He was like, "Hey, here's my camera. Go ahead and borrow it for like 2 weeks if you want," which is pretty unheard of. No one does that. So that was pretty cool. He was just very welcoming and open, and he was down to um basically have me like go out and kind of like learn. And so I did that for 2 years while I was in my like master's program. And then after that, I had built up a little bit of a resume and had some work underneath my belt. So then I went to when I was just done with school, I applied for GoPro, and I guess they
Worked
liked
out.
me enough to hire me. So yeah, it was pretty cool. So but yeah, I guess my biggest thing is I would just recommend, you know, don't ever feel like you're too good to do free work, or even if you're someone who has experience, if you have like the opportunity to go, just work for someone who you've like loved their work, I would take the opportunity and just kind of run with it, because I feel like that's how you learn the best.
I love that. That's some excellent advice, and
Yeah.
just kind of goes to show your passion for what you're doing and self-teaching, how to edit, how to shoot, and now you're working on some really cool content.
Yeah, definitely. So it'll pay off. You got to trust the process and just know that it will pay off. So
Ooh, we got Nelson in here also commenting on Hawaii, keeping it real,
nice.
holding it
Oh
down.
yeah. Yes. Nice. Definitely. So just in the meantime, I've put down a couple clips that I think will be great to start. It's just two GoPro shots, two different angles. This one is guy getting ready, grabbing his helmet, and then this guy just like pulling it down. So it's pretty simple, but just getting the flow, getting establishing. And then I think I'm going to go into a few character moments just to get people hyped up. And so one of these teams right here, they were just loving talking, chatting, just doing everything and having a different on the field. So probably add one of those scenes in here. And also, just for the sake of space, there's two ways I like to edit too. A lot of times I'll drag this down here, so I don't have to go another way to be more efficient. You can like pancake your timeline so that you can kind of have both, and you're not having to like copy and paste. And then when you do it this way, you can just come over here and like drag this clip down. So then you don't have to go back and forth and copy and paste. So just another way to just be a little bit quicker, a little bit more efficient.
Yeah, I also do the same thing. I'll pop open another sequence window, and you don't even need to hold Alt or copy paste. You just drag it in and it makes a copy of it, which is super handy.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
See, all
We got
right.
about 10 minutes left here. 10,
Cool.
15 minutes or so.
Alrighty. I'll speed it up, and then I'll also, I kind of did make a rough edit as well, so I can peek into there in the next couple minutes and just show you guys kind of what we got going on as a whole as well. But so I'm finding right now just kind of like a few character moments of just players. I think it's really good anytime you can, especially when the audio dips out or when you do something to basically be able to put some life to the edit, you know, show that there are people like behind the scenes and just showcase them, their voices. A lot of people are funny and they do all sorts of things. So just adding that energy to your edit is super important.
Especially once you get a bunch of rowdy football players together, I'm sure things get interesting.
Definitely. Yeah. Cool. Let me go ahead. I know we're quickly running out of time here, so let me go ahead and open up an edit that I did do from this, and I'll kind of just walk you guys here quickly a few tips that I did to make the clips come together better.
Excellent. And for anyone that is just popping in, we've been covering quite a bit of video editing techniques. Taylor's gone through the process of selecting music, pulling selects, her just creative editing process on matching cuts. We talked about time remapping, and all of this will be available after the stream on Behance. So feel free to check in and come watch it again or share it with other people.
And thanks everybody for tuning in. It's been great to just answer some questions and shed some light and teach you guys a few things. So
super fun time. I love it.
Cool. Getting a little bit of a slowdown here, but let's see. Okay. So what happens when you work with project that has, I think this project has like 8 terabytes in it, so it's big.
8 very, terabytes. Very big.
Yeah,
I want to know how many people here have worked with 8 terabytes in their edit. Please let me know what the biggest project is in the chat. Just tell me the size of the project, how many hard drives you have. Like, what are you editing off of right now?
I actually have a iMac Pro, the 2017 iMac Pro, but I did also get a new one of the M2 MacBooks. So that thing's definitely, if you want to dish out the dough for that one, I definitely recommend. It'll handle all your footage.
Yeah. What is this? What is this shot in, like 15K?
No, just honestly, I think it's mostly just like 4K, but it just stuff
raw
is just
and things get huge
raw,
quick.
just files, GoPros.
These days you shoot
a lot.
2 minutes of video and you got 8 terabytes.
Yeah, exactly. Let me close this just so it doesn't slow us down.
Cool. And meanwhile, guys, again, if you haven't yet already, go ahead and on Behance, up next to the chat, there's guest recommendations. And if you got someone you want to recommend, send them over there. Also, be sure to follow us on YouTube as well as on Instagram at Adobe Live.
Great. Okay, so this is the same exact song we did. I kind of mapped out an edit earlier just so, just in the sake we didn't have enough time, but I'm going to play through it. I'll just play through it real quickly so you can see the final product of what we did do. And then I'll go through like a few of these different time remapping, some of like the mindset behind why I did a few of these as well.
And could we be sure to make sure that audio track is just turned down just a little bit? Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. So here, let me up this, play it real quick.
I'm excited.
Cool.
Look at all my victims. Here we go. Come on.
Cool. So that was like the final version
So
of it.
cool.
Yeah.
So cool.
So thank you. Thank you. And so again, I have those two intro shots, some characters, some life, look at all my victims here. That's a great line.
Look at all my victims.
Just to get everybody just pumped up and like ready to go. And then these guys dancing. And then here is one thing I did to kind of transition us. This guy says, let's go. And then he's about to push into this bag, and this guy is about to run forward. So what I did here, and I think is good to help you like transition into shots, especially if it's high energy shots. Again, going back to that time remapping here, clicking the speed, and I sped his clip up. Don't be afraid to go above 100%, like he's at about 200%. And I just sped up the clip just to really ramp up into there. And I think that really makes it, and I'll just show you quickly what it looks like without it, and then
yeah, those little tips are just so helpful, and it's something a lot of people don't think about. So you just speed ramp the end there, and it kind of just adds that extra little push, literally the same way he's just smashing into that pad. The video's doing the same thing. It's so good.
Yeah, so here was what it was before the speed ramp. No, it's fine. It like works, but it definitely, when you come back here and you add it, it just gets you into that motion much quicker. And it really just helps like pack a little bit of punch. And then again here, slowed it down so that you can really get the emphasis of the catch. And then something I did, so the framing is pretty like different on these two shots. So he's kind of bringing the ball into him. And so because he's bringing the ball into him, what I did is I added just a quick little scale here. So it kind of, the movement matches a little bit. So I just scaled this clip in a little bit higher so that you just get a little bit of the movement to just feel a little bit more fluid. So just like little things like that. It's really the little things that make, I think, the biggest impact overall. And then one of the things that I love and I think is very important, and you don't have to do it for every single shot, but I think having movement flow the same way is super, super important. So for example, he's coming around and then this guy is coming to the right. So it all flows very seamlessly and it cuts together very, very well. And it just, a lot of times if it's the opposite or things, it can take you out of the edit and it can kind of jar you a little bit. So the more fluid you can make it, I think it keeps people more and more engaged.
Yeah, I love these little tips and adding those speed ramps and just looking for the shots that match in a good way. For me, I know my eye will see, I'll look at where my eye is on one shot and then look at the next shot and see, does my eye match to where the next one is? And it seems like that's a lot of what you're talking about, is kind of keeping that in mind as you're going through the shots.
Yeah, because I mean, just in general, if you have a shot here and all of a sudden I cut to this, I tried to cut them so they were in the same place, like you said, for eye movement. But like if I started it and the quarterback was on like the complete opposite side of the screen, or just the movement was completely opposite, it would definitely, you would notice it. And you don't want people to be like, like to stop and like think and kind of take them out the edit. So I think that's super important.
Excellent. Well, I think we can start wrapping up here. I do have one other question for you, just with this edit. Obviously, we didn't have enough time to go through the whole thing, but what was maybe the most challenging part? Or if someone was trying to make an edit like this, do you have like one good tip that you would suggest to get through it and take it down?
Definitely. I mean, definitely just having that game plan in the beginning is super crucial, because it'll just help you feel like, at least, it's kind of like if you're writing a paper or a book, clearly if you have an outline, it's just going to make your process and your life a whole bunch easier. It's going to make what you're doing better. So I think really having that game plan ahead of time. And then also I can analyze my edits a lot, spend a lot of time just sitting there and like contemplating, and I do it all the time. So what I suggest is if you find clips that work, I would just try and build out that first rough draft as quickly as possible and not try and like dissect every single shot and go back and forth. Because I feel like when you do that, you're sitting behind your desk feeling like you're not making any progress. But I feel like if I just try and take the inner critic out, make an edit as quickly as possible, and then go back and refine, I think that's much better than, having that analysis by paralysis at the very beginning. So
So true, especially with 8 terabytes
yeah.
of footage. My goodness.
Oh
So
yeah, there's just so much. Yeah, there's so many. The possibilities can be endless, and it just depends on the person. So,
well, give me the quick like 1 minute recap of what we worked on today.
cool. So today, we basically went over how to be more intentional, how to create better montages and like sizzle reels. We started off kind of with the project structure, the folder structure. Then we dove into the music, how you can map out your edits beforehand, figure out where you want certain shots to be, and just really have a game plan going in. And we talked about building out selects timelines, importing selects when you're working with footage or projects with other people, how you can easily bring in their selects timelines. And then we kind of briefly just went over a few techniques, specifically like time remapping, different things like match cutting, to kind of help you just have a better, more seamless and a free-flowing edit. So
Well, it looks fantastic. I think everyone here that's watching would agree.
thanks.
Yeah. Let's see if anyone maybe joined in late or didn't see the whole thing. Taylor, where's the best place to find you, find your work, to follow you?
Definitely. My website is taylorcreates.com. So that's kind of where I keep most of my projects and everything that I've been working on. So
Awesome. Well, go check out Taylor's work. She does tons of incredible work. I've had the pleasure of working with her for a long time now. And like I said, she's one of the most talented editors I know. So definitely go check her out. If you missed any of this, feel free to watch the replay. They will be available on both Adobe Live and on Behance. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube, as well as over on Instagram, where we'll be posting updates and streams and all kinds of cool content. And that is on Instagram at Adobe Live. And then, yeah, it's been great having you here, Taylor. And I really hope that we can do this again, because there's so much cool content coming through that I mean, you have so many stories and so much amazing stuff and techniques that I would love to have you back. And it's been fun having you here. So with that, yeah. With that,
yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in and being here and letting me chat with you a little bit. It's been great. And Alex, thanks for being a great host. And
you
yeah,
make it easy.
yeah.
Super fun to have you here. I'm glad that I was able to host a good friend and a talented individual. So with that, I think coming up next, don't go anywhere, guys. We do have another segment starting right away. And we are going to be talking about a newly released beta software called Adobe Firefly. And I've gotten the chance to kind of play with this over the last few weeks. It's super cool. You put in some words and it'll generate artificial images, text, really cool stuff. So stick around. That'll be hosted by freelance brand identity designer Andrew Hockrattle, who's an awesome guy. So come over, check out, stay tuned, how to use that AI technology in the beta version of the first Firefly model, where you can use everyday language to generate extraordinary new content. It's really cool. With all that, Taylor, thanks so much again. And that's all I got. Stick around, guys. Thanks for being part of the community in the chat.